real estate all across the country. And now we're going live. We do real estate in probably, I would say, 25 states across the country. So if you guys are new to our Zooms and you haven't worked with us or been in any of our Zooms before, it doesn't really matter what state you're in. We do deals all across the country. So yeah, welcome. If this is your guys' first time ever being in the Herd of Profits, our leader Zoom, if you could type 1 in the chat, just always like to see who our newcomers are. And as always, we always have our loyal elephants that always show up to our Zooms. Sweet Scott, Angie, Jennifer, thank you guys. Super excited to get going. Today is just a general Q&A. So we just every Tuesday we just do a Q&A. So if you guys are working on anything, any leads, or you're just not sure what market to pick or how to get started, or you need help underwriting a deal, RC1, Titus, nice to have you guys. Yeah, welcome. And I usually spend like 5-10 minutes shouting everybody out. So I'm just going to try to go through it really quickly. Stevie Brown, shout out. Mr. Jim and Donda Molinex, shout out to you guys. Artie Littlefields, my boy. Christopher, good to see you, man. Let's see. Doris, Pansy, always good to see you. May, thank you for showing up. Let's see who else we got. Zoom user, we got a Zoom user in here. That might be Maj. He was in here as a Zoom user. Jordan Hirschfield, shout out to you. And that's all I'm seeing. I'm sure if I miss you guys and you guys are in here, that's just because I missed you. But Amanda Mulqueen, shout out to you guys. So thank you guys for showing up. So again, every Tuesday we do a general Q&A. So if you guys have any questions about anything real estate related or investing related, please feel free to raise your hand. You can also push your questions in the side chat, but anyone who has their hand raised will get priority. Welcome all you new folks. Let me make some announcements real quick. So we have our very own Facebook group. If you guys aren't a part of our Herd of Profits Facebook group, you should join. It's totally free. I'm going to post the link to that right now in the chat. So we have a little bit over 1,000 members. We have a good form. So anytime you guys have questions, you can post it here and we'll get back to you. We also have some good resources in the files tab. So if you guys come to the files tab, we have some good stuff for you. A seller net sheet. This is a side-by-side comparison of why a seller should sell on subject to versus on the market. We have frequently asked questions about subject to, a script for calling agents, a foreclosure process. We have LOIs. These stand for letter of intents. These are essentially offers. So these are blank templates that you guys can use to download and send offers to agents or sellers. So we have a seller finance, a hybrid, and a subject to only LOI. We have an underwriting calculator, a buy box, our buy box PDF, an estimating repair cost PDF, and some other good resources for you guys. So make sure you join the Facebook group, totally free, doesn't cost anything. And then we are also currently live right now. So every week we go live on Angie's YouTube channel. So we just passed 1,000 subscribers, which is huge. Shout out to you guys. Thank you guys for subscribing. I will post the link to Angie's YouTube channel so you can see we're live right now. This is where we store all of our Zooms. So we have, we actually used to record them to Facebook, but now we recorded them to YouTube about starting 6 months ago. So we have Q&As in here, underwriting Zooms, calling agents live, probably anything you guys could want or have questions about. We've already done a Zoom going over that topic. So make sure you guys subscribe to Angie if you could. And then, check out some of the past Zooms that we've done. And I'm sure you guys will get a lot of good value out of that. So we can get started with the Q&A. So again, if you guys have questions, feel free to raise your hand. That's the best way for us to interact with you. Also, if your guys' name is Zoom user or it's not your real name, if you could change it to your real name so we know what to call you. And then if you can, turn your camera on too, so we can see what you look like. Sweet. All right, Chris, what do you got, man?
Yeah, I have a really good buddy who's in Utah who owns a brokerage, and so I started talking to him and I was like, dude, send me anything creative that you have. And he sent me two today, and I was hoping that maybe you could just help me underwrite them, basically, was it.
I love it, man. Yeah,
Because they're both seller finance, and so and he gave me just like short little notes and the addresses. So I'll just DM you the first one, I guess. Is that the best way?
yeah, that's the best way. Yeah.
Cool.
And while you're doing that too, I'll also share with you guys, if you come to our Facebook, we have a lead form link where you can submit. Actually, let me find it. We have a lead form link that you can submit leads that you have. If you're not quite sure what the next step is, how to get it closed, how to send an offer, how to underwrite it, if you don't have money for earnest money, or you need help finding a buyer. So here is the deal form link if you need help with your leads. Boom, right there. So I'm going to post that on our Facebook channel. So again, all our resources, everything you guys we talk about, we go over, it's all on our Facebook channel. But I will also post it in the chat too. So yeah, if you guys have leads that you're working on, you're not quite sure how to get it to that next step, you can submit it. And we have two people on our team, Robin Hurt and Linda Willoughby. They manage those leads, so they'll get in touch with you and see what the next step is. They'll help you call the agent, explain subject to or seller finance, send an offer. And then anytime that lead moves in our system or in a pipeline, you will get email notifications about the status of that lead too. So Yusuf sent a lead in last week. Awesome. Okay, let's take a look at this one, Christopher. And you don't care if I share the address or anything?
Mate, well, it's too late. It's all good. But yeah, yeah. Anyways, that's it. So
Okay.
so
Yeah,
then
and I always
well, sorry, what'd you say?
okay. I always tell people too, like, it is sketchy sharing your leads because you're not too sure who's in the Zoom, who could steal it
Yeah.
from you too. Is this your guy, Kevin? Is that your buddy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
And we're real
Okay.
good buddies. So if anyone out there, like, he will know. So just if there's anyone
Yeah.
thinking about it, it's like, yeah, we talk almost every day. So
Nice. Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is generally, a lot of people don't have the capacity or
yeah.
the ability to be able to, one, explain subject to, find out what their loan balance is, underwrite it, send an offer, close it anyways too. So if any of you guys want to compete with us, you're more than welcome to, but we have our stuff in a group. So good luck to you. Okay, sweet. So let's check this one out. Now, what did he say about this? Tell me more
So
about
yeah,
this.
so I sent you the text that he sent me about this. So he says seller has debts to pay. She needs 20%. Say they'll finance for 5 years at 5%, but due to debts, I bet we can get the rate down. So that's the text that he
Okay.
sent me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. So what I like to do is I use PropStream to
Mm-hmm.
see what type of debt they have. I can also see how long they've owned it, all that good stuff. So he's owned it for like 3.5 years. Looks like, yeah, he bought it. We could see he bought it back in probably 2018, and then looks like he refinanced in 2020 and maybe 2022. So interesting what's going on here. I'm not exactly sure, or maybe he bought it. No, he bought it in 2020 and then looks like he refinanced in 2022. Yeah, DR Horton. So this is a brand new home, 2017. They sold it in 2018, and then yeah, not exactly sure what's going on, but okay. So he does have a loan for 276,000, and where'd it go? And then they're asking 469. I like to throw it on Zillow too. Okay, so currently listed, been listed for 136 days. Sellers offering 1 point interest rate buy down and seller financing available. This is the perfect starter home. Main level boasts a spacious open dining living area, great for entertaining guests. Blah blah blah. Not too much that we're concerned as investors. Obviously, beautiful home in Saratoga Springs, Utah. Are you familiar with this area, Christopher?
Not super. I know there's like so many little cities in Utah. It's like, so no is the answer.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, let's see where it's at. Okay, so we're right on like some type of Utah lake here. And just on the south end of Salt Lake. So that's good. Anytime you guys are looking at leads and it's in the middle of nowhere, like if we were looking over here in like whatever this city is, right? Like, oh, there's just a random high school over here, right? But if you're just looking in the middle of nowhere, probably not a good lead, right? You have to think, of course, there's no competition, but that means there's no buyers, there's no people investing money out there. So obviously, Salt Lake City is a very well-known city, and we're just south of it. Looks like right on a lake. So this looks like very good prime location real estate. So it's possible this could be a rental, Airbnb, traveling nurse rental, right? So several different exit strategies that we could deploy here. So essentially, right, we know what this guy's terms are that he wants. So he would seller finance. So we can underwrite that. So again, if you guys go to the files tab in our Heart of Profits, you can download this deal or no deal spreadsheet, and this will help you underwrite rental properties. So let me find it on mine, go to my calculators. And you can underwrite using a spreadsheet. You can underwrite using just a pen and paper. There's no wrong way to do it. But yeah, so okay, so monthly rent rate. So that's the first thing. We got to see what this thing could potentially rent for. And you know, there's multiple types of investing, right? That's why Pace called this the elephant challenge, because there's a million different ways you can make money in real estate. For us, we are generally buy and hold investors. So we don't necessarily look at properties to fix them and flip them. We look at them to rent them and hold them in our portfolio. So that's what we would underwrite this as. Obviously, the home's in great condition, so there's not much you could fix up and force equity. So it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2,300 square feet. So keep that in mind, 2,300. Let's see what is renting in this area. Okay. I forgot exactly where we were at. Hopefully it zooms in a little bit more for me. Okay, so we're in this general area. So let's see, 3-2, 1,500, 3-3, 2,200, 3-2.5, 2,200. So it looks like our rent is going to be on average around, I would say 1,800 on the low end to, yeah, right around 2,000, 2,200 is possible. So I'm going to guess, yeah, 1,900 to 2,200. A lot of comparables for rent at 2,200. So Zillow is great too, because you could see, okay, these guys have been listed 46 days. They've had 11 contacts. That's not as much as you'd like to see. Let's see what this one is. 12 days listed, 13 contacts. So obviously people are going to venture more towards those cheaper properties. And then we just want to look at single family homes. So let's see what these are, 1850. Let's see what they're asking for this. 1850, 15 days listed, 2 contacts. This is also a thing too. These look brand new. A lot of developers are struggling to sell their brand new builds, so they're turning them into rentals. So the rental market is also being very inflated as we speak too. But again, there's a lot of comps that support. We can at least probably get 1,800, if not maybe 2,200. So if we go back to our calculator, right, monthly rent rate, let's just use 2,100 to be conservative. Our Airbnb rate, we can check that, but we're not too sure what it is right now. And then our PITI, right, we have to figure out what our monthly payment is. Yolanda says, so the leads that we submit do not need to be under contract already? No, yeah, so you can submit leads. we do want you to at least call them. We don't want you to just send us Zillow listings that you never contacted. So at least, put in that effort of calling that agent. A lead, we don't consider an address a lead until we know their price, condition, motivation, and timeline. Those are the 4 pillars. So if you want to submit us leads, try to get the 4 pillars before you submit the lead to us. Okay, so PITI, right? So he wants at his purchase price of what is it, $469,900, and he wants a 20% down payment, $469,900, so times 0.8, right? Because we put 20% down. So our loan amount would be $375,920. 30 years. They said they would do a 5% interest rate. So already right off the bat, right? Like just our principal and interest, this doesn't even include taxes and insurance. It's 2018. Let's see. Taxes are pretty cheap. So probably like $150 a month. And then insurance probably right around the same. So 2018 plus 150 plus 150 for insurance. So our PITI altogether is 2318, right? So we're negative $200 already. Plus to put down 20% on a home is quite a lot, So I keep forgetting where he's listed. 469,900 times 0.2. This guy also is asking for us to put $93,980 as a down payment. If we ever would put that much down, we would ask that he'd pay the closing costs and pay his agent's commission. So all of this could be zero. Still there's going to be closing costs on our end, call it $2,500, right? So obviously we're negative 16% cash on cash. So this one is tough to make sense for a long-term rental property. And then I lost the rest of their terms, right? But he wanted a 5-year balloon, I think, too, right, Chris?
Yeah, 5-year at 5%.
Yep, 5-year at 5%. Yeah. So just doesn't make sense for an investor. It doesn't really make sense for a homestead buyer too, because right, the interest rate is nice at 5%, but banks are still offering 6.5%, 6%. And then if he's willing to buy down your rate, you could likely get into 5.5%. And you can get into that with a 3.5%, maybe even 10% down payment. And it's going to be a 30-year fixed. You won't have to figure out how to balloon or refinance in those 5 years. So this one's going to be tough. I'm not sure what the clear exit strategy. I know for me, generally speaking, for seller finance is typically a lot harder of a deal to make work than subject to, for example, because the seller has to be the right type of motivated. Your best candidate for seller finance is tired landlords. So people that it's a rental property, they've owned it for 20 years. They don't really need the proceeds from selling the home. They're just tired of managing it. So as long as they can keep cash flowing like a bank, then they're pretty happy with seller finance, because we need to get into these properties ideally less than 7%. We always say 10%, but less than 7%, so we can add 3% and wholesale it or do whatever we need to. So less than 7% down, and ideally less than 4.5 interest rate tops, like no more than 4.5. And then the shortest balloon period we need is 7 years. So this one's a little bit far off. Sheila asks, what about pad split? Yeah, definitely could be a pad split, right? We can also look at Airbnb. It seems like it's in a great location. There's also a few ways you guys can check Airbnb. AirDNA is probably the best website, but it costs like $600 a month. There is a website called data.rabu. If it would type data.rabu, which is essentially it's very similar to AirDNA, but it's free. So we can see what this website, it'll actually show us comparables. So like nearby homes, this was a 3-bedroom. Okay. So it shows us nearby rentals, right? So this one's making 2,300, 2,800, 6,000. So I mean that's good. But 680, 700, right? So like Airbnb too, your expenses go up. You're going to have higher vacancy. You're paying the utilities with Airbnb. So just you really need this number to be at least at $5,000 for this to even be considered an Airbnb. Plus, it's volatile, right? Who knows what's going to happen with Airbnb in the next year? The laws could change in this area. There could even be an HOA that prohibits from short term. So we don't really look at Airbnb as a viable exit strategy unless the home and the previous seller has already operated as an Airbnb and they can show us rental receipts and we can underwrite it with actual numbers. But yeah, I wouldn't consider Airbnb. Pad split is good. It's just you kind of have to know the area very well, and I'm obviously not familiar with this area. Pad split is better for it's better for shorter term markets like Las Vegas, like Miami, so because you have tenants renting a room maybe for a month, 2 months, 3 months at a time, and they're okay with living in smaller areas. But yeah, I don't think pad split would work for this. And then you're also looking at, a lot of construction, right? Because you'd want to convert this to like a 6-bedroom or a 7-bedroom. So it's going to cost money to close these rooms off, all that good stuff. So, Section 8. Okay. Yeah. Brandon. Yeah. Awesome, man. Looking at Section 8. Section 8 only pays $1,640 a month for that zip code. Section 8, you're way better off looking in Alabama, Ohio, right? Where properties are $80,000, $40,000, and they rent for the same. They rent for $1,300 a month. So, yeah. Any questions, Christopher? Like this kind of makes sense, right? It's just tough.
Yeah. Would you go back with is there any way that you would like just counter that or go back with a deal, or is it just like a waste of time completely to even just say, hey, this is not a deal?
It's not a waste of time. So what I would want to do, so this is good. So what this guy is doing, essentially, he's wrapping his home to you because he's creating a seller finance note with a higher interest rate. So what I would prefer to do is actually just take over his existing mortgage subject to, give him a 5 or a 6% down payment, and then whatever equity is left, now I'll finance that, still probably at like 3 to maybe 4% interest rate, with no balloon. You could counter this, but it's just very unlikely in my experience. Like if this guy wants 20%,
yeah,
he probably needs it for something. He's got a lot of equity. So if all else fails, right, what he should do is just continue to price drop by like $10,000 increments until showings pick up, some offers start coming in. It's not like he's against the wall, he's underwater or anything like that. So I would say for this one, right, I would just say it's probably not a good fit for me. There's no way an investor would make money on that.
Yeah. Cool. I got one more if you want to look at it.
Yeah. And then real quick too, like let's look at let's figure out what interest rate this deal might make sense at. Let's look at 0 interest rate, 1,044. Even then you're after taxes and insurance, your payment's still 1,300. You're only cash flowing $700 a month, but you've sunk 90 grand into it. So
yeah,
still, yeah, pretty tough. So yeah, let's look at the other one you got. Let's see.
Or
Kevin
you do
says
a hybrid on it, right? That's what you're saying.
Sorry. Yeah. We would want to acquire it through a hybrid.
Okay.
And then that leaves us room to be able to now, we could sell it as a wrap for 10% down, 6.5% interest to a homestead buyer. And that would probably be the only exit strategy that would work. but still it's just not the most sexy deal. There's
Yeah.
better deals out there. Kevin asks, is there a place for HOA fees? You could just add that into your monthly PITI, or add that. Yeah, I would just add that into your monthly payment right here, your HOA fees. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Okay, 1304 in Provo, Utah. Isn't that where Pace is from? I
Maybe.
think Pace is from Provo.
So this one again too, he said want 120 down. Rate could be very, very low because they want to be in a new home. So obviously I know that's probably out already, but again, I guess I just was looking as like what would you on these accept as like a deal, or like, how would you look at it?
Yeah. Adrian says Morby. Yeah, Pace Morby. Yeah, he's from Utah. Okay, well, so that's good to know, right? They want 120 to get into their next home, and then they don't care too much about the interest rate, right? So that right away, it lets me know, okay, maybe a low cash offer would work for this. And then you can tell it's outdated, right? It was built in 1944. This could be something where they're like, their motivation is like, I just need this number, close quick. As long as I get this amount of money in my pocket, I'm happy. And then, yeah, you could update this kitchen, update these bathrooms, paint it. Probably you could use some new landscape, some new windows, and then flip this thing. So this might be one where, sorry guys, my headphone died. I'm back. So let's see. So they only owe $81,000. So that's good interest rate. So I would say talk to your guy and say, okay, first one's a no-go for me. I don't see a clear path to make any money. This one's interesting. I do see a way where we could, renovate this property for some equity, but obviously the price, I'm going to need it at a better price. So it sounds like they are willing to do a subject to offer if they got the right amount of money in their pocket. What if I just bought it in cash that allowed them to walk away and we close quick? So why don't we underwrite this as more of like a fix and flip instead? I think that would be a better way, or just that's like more clear of an exit strategy to me, at least. Because yeah, you're right. You just don't want to put $100,000 into a single family home in Provo, Utah. So, all right. So I'll just use a Google Docs to underwrite this. There are flipping calculators, but I like to do it just pen and paper. So first thing you want to do when you're looking at a fix and flip is figure out what your after repair value is. So they're listed at 449. They've been listed for 107 days and they're not selling. It's likely this could be worth 450 if it was totally renovated, right? And it had all new updates. So let's see. I think Utah is a non-disclosure state though. Yeah, it is. Okay. So I'm going to need to use Privy. So this is why I will use Privy versus PropStream. Privy is way better at comping properties and seeing what's sold in an area. PropStream is better at getting a little bit more intricate data about a specific property. Why does it keep doing that? And pulling lists. Privy is better for finding comparables, and I might need to update or refresh. Sometimes you need to refresh Privy. Okay. So there's a couple ways you can do it on Privy. You can hit comparables, and we can zoom in here and see. Zoom in actually. So we can see 8 sold comps. So what I like to do is immediately eliminate anything that was sold too long ago. So back in December, right, 7 months ago, it was a different market back then. So I'm going to eliminate that. All of these are within a half a mile. So I'm going to leave that. Let's see, square footage. We're all in the general same square footage. Lot size, ours is actually the biggest lot, so that's good. Beds, right? Ours is a 4-2. We have a 5-2, a 3-2, right? So I might really only look at this 4-2. But again, all built around the same, basement's the same, and then sold. So you see 427, 370, 410, 428, 460, and 456, right? So and these are two of the most recent. This one sold at 307. That's kind of your only outlier. That one's so much cheaper. So I'm going to eliminate that one. This one kind of old, 370. The market was different. Okay, so you can see here, right? What you literally could do is add up these 5 properties and divide them by 5 and see what your average is. That's a good way to figure out, okay, what do I think I'm like a median price range. So that's one way to do it, right? But again, these guys are listed right at 450. There's only one home that's sold for that. We can even look at it and see maybe what got these guys up to 460. It's likely, and my guess is that it was renovated, but I could be wrong. So nice backyard, right? This looks like a fix and flipper's touch, white house. I'm guessing it was renovated. So looks nice. Bathrooms updated. Yeah, this looks like a fix and flipper came in here. Really small home, which is just crazy for 460. But for sure, this thing looks recently renovated, granite countertops, right? Like nice, comfy kitchen, stainless steel appliances. So we could be close to this 450 range. But just to be conservative, I think our ARV is probably in the 420s somewhere. So 427, 410, 428. And these two are sort of outliers. I think you'd want to kind of expect around 410, 420. So that's just one way you guys can get your after repair value. There's multiple ways to comp properties. So what I'll do is click that, click search, click deals, click fix and flip. 3.9 million. Obviously, that is not a sufficient comparable, and I'm not really seeing much else. So I'm going to take those comps that we just got. And comping is more of an art form. It's not really a science. So I'm just taking into consideration all of that data I just saw and making an educated guess on my ARV. So I think ARV, we're probably closer to 425,000. And then also ask your agent too, like your buddy, say, do you think this thing in any way will sell at 450 in its current condition? My guess is probably not. I mean, it's already been listed for a long time. So Ruth says, I purchased Privy during the Elephant Challenge and it does nothing for me. I'm sure I'm not using it correctly. Yeah, Ruth, I mean, Privy is best for comping properties. You can also get data on it too. So like if you want to look at someone's mortgage, you can also go to public records, mortgage history, and sometimes it may not have it. Sometimes it will show you what their interest rate is. But you just can't filter. You can't search for interest rates like you can on PropStream, for example. Title records. Yep. There you go. Okay. So, right. Once you know your ARV, right, 425,000, now you can figure out what your other 5 costs. And for me, there's 5 costs that you have to calculate when figuring out a fix and flip. There could be more. There's other ways people arrive to their numbers. But for me, there's 5. So the first one is going to be closing costs. Okay. And this calculation is your ARV times, put next there, ARV times, I would say a range of 0.08 to 0.1. So that's kind of a hard rule to follow. Maybe let's do 8% and 10%. Okay. So most investors can keep their closing costs on the low end. So we'll do 8%. Okay. So again, it's your ARV, 425,000 times 0.08. So right there, we're looking at $34,000 in just closing costs. Okay. Next one, and there's not really a specific order. Next one, let's say, is renovation, right? It's going to cost money to fix this property up. So let's look at it back on Zillow. And then also too, again, shout out to our Facebook group, the estimating repair costs. If you guys look at this document and read it, right, it just talks about taking the square footage of homes and then multiplying it by a dollar amount depending on what type of renovation it needs, right? So there's going to be gut jobs, destroyed, tear downs, and scrapes, lipstick. So if we're looking at this one, carpet, paint, lighting fixtures, a bit of sprucing up, $20 a square foot. Basic, new kitchen, new bathroom, carpet, paint, baseboards, new doors, surface level renovations, not removing walls, not replacing drywall. That's $40 a square foot. So we're somewhere in between lipstick and basic, I would say. Right? Like the floors look like they're in good shape, so we probably don't need new floors. You probably just want to update the bathroom and the kitchens, maybe the trim. Obviously this bathroom is lime green, so you want to update that. So I would say we're probably around $30 a square foot, right kind of in the middle. And then our square footage is 1624. So that calculation is square foot times this one we're going to say is $30 a square foot. Okay, and so that equals, what do we say? It's 1624 is $48,000, 720 to be exact. Now, could you renovate this property for cheaper than that? I'm sure you could. It all depends. There's going to be investors with connections to cabinet companies. They have 10 crews of construction companies and they have 10 flips going on at the same time. So they could probably get it done for 20,000 maybe. But again, being conservative, we want to wholesale this property because we're out of state. We're not going to flip it ourselves. So we want to be very conservative. So that way, when we make an offer, if it gets accepted, we'll be successful in wholesaling it. We'll have multiple options to sell it to. Yes, Kevin. Yep, that reno list is in the Facebook group. It's titled Estimating Repair Cost PDF. Okay, so that's so closing cost is 1, renovations is 2, right? The next one, let's just say our wholesale fee. Okay, this one's pretty simple. How much money? Like Chris, if I could just magic wand, how much money would you want to make on this?
Magic wand?
Mm-hmm.
$1 million. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I would assume it would probably be like between 5 and 10 is like a typical wholesale fee from what I've
that's typical beginner level, I would say. For us,
Okay.
we try to shoot on average at least around 15,000.
Okay.
20,000 is definitely a pretty good day, and 25K is like, okay, that we're gonna go celebrate. So
Yeah.
I would say let's shoot for at least 20,000 on this. Okay, so now we're gonna look at the investor profit, right? So your investor, they want to make money, right? So profit spelled with 1 F. So most investors, I would say, want to make anywhere from at least probably 15 to 20% based on the ARV. This could vary depending. It just really depends, right? Like if the renovation takes long, they want to make more money. Really all depends. But I would say like 15% is a good number. So 425,000 times 0.15. So they want to make at least 63,750 bucks. So 63,000, and then 5 is holding costs. Okay. I don't know if this surprises you guys, but most fix and flip investors aren't using their own money. They're not buying homes in cash and paying for all the construction with their own money. They are borrowing money from hard money lenders, private money lenders, whatever they can find. So this can vary. It really depends on their relationship. If they have good lenders, if they lend them at 10% interest only or 15% interest only, we're not too sure. So most private money or hard money lenders, excuse me, will only lend roughly on average around 80% of your total cost. So far we're at 425,000, subtract 34,000, subtract 48,720, subtract 20,000, subtract 63,750. So far our maximum allowable offer, our Mayo, is now at 258,000. Whoa. Sorry, guys. It's the cleaning guy every time. He's scared of the cleaning guy. Okay, so our maximum allowable offer is at 258,000. So most lenders are only going to lend 80% of your purchase price. So 258,000 times 0.8. So we're looking at hard money costs of, or hard money loan of $206,824. They always amortize it over 30 years. And let's say they're generous, they're going to do 12% interest. And this is interest only. So it's 24,778 divided by 12. So you're paying $2,000 per month in just holding costs. So there's more to this calculation. What was the loan to value? 80%, Ruth, is that what you're asking? So it's 2,064. Okay. Now this is per month. Pace always says that a renovation is going to generally take you as many days. You can spend $1,000 a day. So we can guess that this property will take about 48 days. So call it 2 months, maybe an extra month to sit on the market. So times 3. So now we're at, right, times 3, 6,194. And then they're also going to charge you some upfront points too, right? So they might charge you 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. Let's say they charge you 2 points. A point is an interest, or sorry, is a percentage. So if you borrow, or if you're looking to borrow, what do we say, 206,824, and they charge you 2 points or 2%, that's going to be another $4,000 right up front, 4,136. So now our holding costs are 6,194 plus 4,136, another $10,000 roughly, 330. Okay. So, and then now I'm going to subtract that from my Mayo, 258, 530, subtract 10,330. So now this is our maximum allowable offer, is going to be 248,200. Where did I get this 63,750? That's a 15%. That's 15%. So that's your ARV times 15%. So that's, yeah, just literally 15% of the ARV. That's what most investors tend to shoot for. It all depends. Make sure we got that. There's so many other ways you can get to this number, your MOA. Like, I know that was very long-winded. This is definitely the way more calculated way you can do it. A super quick way is just to take your ARV of 425,000 and multiply it by 0.7, or let's just say 70%, and then subtract your rehab or your renovation. So if we do that calculation, right, so 425,000 times 0.7, subtract our renovation of 48,720, we got literally, that's crazy. That's the closest I've ever seen it. We literally got $248,780. Now this 70%, it's not the same for every market. Some markets you're going to need to get it at 60%, 50%. But on just, if you want to do it very quickly, you're on the phone, they ask you what your offer might look like. You can just do this, right? Figure out what your renovation is, square footage times the level of renovation. So I think, yeah, that's probably around the price we need to pick it up, is 250,000. So we're asking essentially for $200,000 off. Is it likely they accept that? Probably not. But you just never know, right? So, I mean, if we got it at 250, we paid all the closing costs, subtract their loan of 81,000, they walk away with 170 grand. So that might be the sweet spot for them. Right on. Oh yeah, it's a steep discount. Thanks, Artie. Yeah. So, and that's why like cash offers for on market properties are so tough, because they probably have time on their side. You know, they took the time to list it. They've been on for 107 days, right? There's likely not a ton of motivation there. You're better off giving low cash offers direct to seller. Let's see if they've ever even price dropped this thing. Wow, yeah, they started it for sale for 524, and they've continued to price drop. So that's likely what they should just do. They should just continue to price drop by $10,000 increments until they start getting more showings, all that good stuff. So, but yeah, run it by your guys. You know, you never know what they could say.
I had one more. I was just before the Zoom call watching videos on the Morby method. Is that would that apply to either one of these? I know that's more advanced too, and it takes a little more to wrap your head around.
Yeah. Yeah. It's possible. So like your first one could be a Morby method, essentially where you give him an 80% down payment. And then that's what the Morby method is. It's like you still have to have a seller willing to finance you. But it's generally they only need to finance 20% or 30% of it. What happens is you get a loan to essentially bring the cash to close. So you get a loan for 70%, because most investor loans will only lend you 70 or 80% of the overall purchase price. So then you have that seller agree to essentially carry your down payment. So like in the real world, right, you'd only get a loan for 80%. You would have to come to the table with 20%. But if your seller agrees to carry that 20%, you essentially get a gator lender or someone with that 20% to loan it to you for one day to satisfy the escrow, to satisfy closing. And then once it closes, that 20% then goes directly back to your lender, and you create a seller finance note and pay that 20% to the seller over time. But with Morby methods, investor loans are at 8.5% interest right now. So just unlikely you cash flow. Yeah, still wouldn't make too much sense.
Sweet. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I know it was very long-winded, but I always just like to teach through these examples. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, doesn't hurt. Run it by your guy and say, you know, I had one of my, you know, someone underwrite this for me. Seller finance doesn't work. I can't put that much down into a single family home. You know, if they need 170 grand, I could buy it for cash at 250 and they get their 170, but that's probably, you know, I mean, you could probably pick it up for 300 and then just list it back on the market at 375 and still make money that way. So it all depends.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Sweet. Right on. Thanks, Chris. Kim, you got a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, so I had a wholesaler bring this to me yesterday. 3-bed, 2-bath, built in 2000, 2-car garage, has solar on top, entry fee $67,000. It's a subject to balance on the mortgage is $289 with a 2.85 interest rate. PITI is $1,383.66 with no balloon. Now things are flying off the Arizona market like hotcakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is that $67,000. How would you negotiate to get that down a little bit? Because I thought it was kind of high, and I'm trying to get the money, but that's very high. I want to get in the deal just because of 1383.66. It's very,
Yeah.
but I'm just wanting to know what do you think would be the best strategy to kind of negotiate that entry fee?
Yeah. So first thing I would look at is does it make sense from a cash on cash basis, right? So like where did they get that 63 number?
Right.
For me, right, like if it, it doesn't matter what the entry fee is, right? The general rule of thumb for subject twos is you try to keep it around 10%. But if it's a 30% cash on cash return, you can obviously charge more of an entry fee, as long as the return on investment makes sense. So your PIT is 1,300, but if it rents for $3,000, that's a sweet deal. I'd pay 60 grand for it,
Right.
but obviously if the number's a little bit tighter, right? Maybe you need it at 40 grand or closer to 30 grand. It's tough to negotiate that down,
Okay.
because we wholesale a lot of properties, and we typically market them around 10% entry, but sometimes we market them with higher entry fees if it's a 2% interest loan or it's in a great
Gotcha.
area and the cash on cash makes sense. So if I have a lot of interested buyers and then someone comes to me and says, that entry is too high, can you do $10,000 off? I would say I'll think about it, but I'm going to wait and I'm going to explore my options with these other buyers first.
Okay.
Is generally how I go about it. And then the other side of it too is like maybe the entry's high because that's what the guy needed to give to the seller and to the agent to get it locked up,
And it is, yeah. Cash to seller, wholesale. Well, their assignment fee. So yeah, I mean, I get where the numbers come from, but I wanted to see if there was a way to kind of negotiate that down a bit. Maybe not so much to the seller, if possible, something along those lines. But okay, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. And it's always a tough position too. Like, for example, if we go to wholesale a property and we are asking for a $15,000 assignment fee, and it's been a couple of weeks and I obviously haven't assigned it to an end buyer yet, I'd be for sure willing to negotiate my assignment fee. But for me, like, it's very tough for me to want to go back to a seller and renegotiate. I hate doing
Sure.
that.
Okay.
I would rather back out of the deal and just say, hey, it's not a good fit for me. Or just say, hey, my lenders pulled my funding. I've been scrambling for the past few days trying to figure out a solution to get this closed. I had an investor buddy of mine said he would buy it, but he can't pay you that much. Can you do this amount? But I just
Right.
hate doing that.
So it's just a
not
mere
fun.
fact of going back and having to renegotiate as a wholesaler. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Right. You guys are
But
doing
yeah,
a great job. I just want to say thank you for all the value you guys are bringing. Appreciate
for
it.
sure. Awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate that compliment, Kim. Thank you so much, man.
No
Yeah.
worries.
But yeah, and I would look at it from, underwrite it, see what your cash on cash is. Maybe you can get a private money lender if it's still cash flowing like crazy, and you can get a private money lender, pay it back while still making money on top. My guess is probably not, but if it's renting for $3,000 a month, then maybe. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, rents in that area between 18 and 2 grand.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge cushion there.
Yeah. Tough to justify it. It doesn't really pencil out that well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Good deal. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Kim. Awesome. And then Stevie has a good point too. Be careful with solar homes. Solar in the traditional market somewhat can help improve the value of your home, but generally it makes transactions a little bit harder, right? Because some people don't like solar, and then you have to deal with selling or like subject toing the lease or applying for that loan, right? So solar can be a little bit tougher. Just something to keep in mind. Let's see. I missed this question. Can we use Privy to determine the as is value as well as the ARV? For sure, Lily. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. You'll just have to find properties in similar condition. So like if it's outdated, just find outdated homes that have sold nearby. If it's destroyed, right, same thing. You just have to find those similar properties might be a little bit tougher, but you can for sure do enough due diligence. You can find some similar homes. Doris, I have 4 buyers at $200,000 each looking in Houston, Texas area, and 1 flipper wanting to sell. Just picked them up last week. Best way to find the properties. This could be backwards, but I'm pretty new. No, I mean, that's sort of the right way to do it, Doris. You want to find your buyers first, then go and find the right properties for them. But then you have the age old question of, right, like, how do I convince this person to sell me their home at such a steep discount? Again, you're better off with text message campaigns, mailers, door knocking, driving for dollars, that sort of thing, to find those more distressed, motivated sellers. Foreclosures and probate, of course, as well too. So just depends, right? For us, cash wholesaling has not been the easiest for us. Our bread and butter is sticking to subject to creative finance. That's what we know. That's what we're successful at. So we don't really look at cash fix and flips that much. We've maybe only ever done a handful of them compared to the other 50 or so plus creative deals we've done. So cash is just not what we like. It's very saturated and just tough. It's a tough market right now. Many fixed and flippers stopped fix and flipping because of the unsteadiness of the market too. So tough to say, Doris. Okay, really sweet. Someone had a question that was struggling raising their hand. I'm probably not gonna be able to find it. Kevin Burke says, can you say the 4 pillars again, please? So it's price, right? So that's generally an easy one to get. Sometimes it's tough to figure out or pull a number out. If you're talking directly to a seller, right, you always want to have them say their number first. But if you're dealing with on-market properties, right, it's listed, so it's very easy to get price. Condition, so again, if it's listed, you can see the pictures. Still doesn't give you everything you need to know. And then it's motivation is the biggest one, right? Why are they looking to sell? Is it pain? Is it gain, right? What is that reason? And then timeline, how soon do they need to sell? Those are your 4 pillars. Still have an off market. We went through that. We'll sell, but there's also 18 room for sale. There's an 18 room for 475,000 fully leased out. Waiting on like an 18 unit like apartment for 475,000. I would buy that. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's an insanely cheap price per door number. I mean, I don't even know what that would be, right? 475 divided by 18, $26,000 a door. Makes sense, right? If you're renting those for $260 a month, you have that 1% rule right there. $500, you're at 2%. So that seems like a solid deal to me. Yeah, send it to me, Doris. I'd love to take a look at it. That was me with the question. Yeah, Lois. Yeah, if you have a question, you can unmute or post it in the chat, whichever works better for you.
So I had this lead that I found myself, and it's a pre-foreclosure. I called the agent. He said, I asked about the property and stuff, and he said that they actually are like $60,000 in arrears. So it had gone into it had been in contract, and then fell out because there's 60,000 in arrears. So I asked, if we could, pay that and pay your commission, would the seller be open to terms? And he was like so excited. He was like, yeah, he's like, they would like to do that. We just didn't know anybody that would buy it that way. So I'm just wondering, is that something with a subject to, because I don't know a ton about the creative finance, I'm learning, but is that something would that be too much to bring them up, the 60,000 and then take over? I don't know if that would work.
Yeah. And the answer to so many questions are, it just depends, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's $1 million home, $66,000 is only 6.6%. But if you're looking at a $200,000 home, right, $66,000 is closer to like 28% or something. So it depends on the price of the home. It also depends on, again, if it cash flows as a rental, right? If they have an amazing rate, and maybe, right, they're just willing to let us catch up the arrears and walk away, and now we have a lot of equity built in. So it just depends. It's so tough to say.
Well, I think it was a low equity. I mean, I'm not in front of my computer, so I don't remember the exact numbers. I think it may have been like 385 was the asking price, and maybe
Okay.
They were somewhere close to that as far as their mortgage. So they didn't have a whole lot of equity in
Okay.
it.
Yeah, and that's usually the case, right? Is they don't have much equity anyways.
Mhm.
So yeah, my guess is that would be too high, right? So like 66 divided by 380, you're looking at 17% plus paying the agent another 2 or 3%. So plus closing costs. So you're getting into the deal for 20%. Again, if the cash on cash is there, and you're making a 15% return on that 20% down payment, then it makes sense.
Okay.
But in my experience, at that price range, 380, their payment is probably in between $1,500 to $2,000, and that's likely probably about as much as you could rent it for anyways. Maybe
Yeah, the rents, I
2,500.
think, right. The rent, I think, was like around 2,000, 2,200 or something to 2,500.
Right. And if their monthly payment all in is like 1,500, there's a $500 spread there. So, but again, you have to keep in mind, you've got to keep some for repairs, management, vacancy, right? So really call it like $200 at the end of the day. At the end of the month, that's $2,400 for a year. Now divide that by your, I don't know, like $75,000 entry. That's like it's a 3% return on your money.
Yeah.
I'd rather just go put it all on black, you know? So
yeah.
tough to say.
Well,
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. Those ones, I mean, you can look into, doing a loan modification, something of that sort. It's likely that they've already looked into all those options, and it's unfortunate they probably are just going to lose their home. Not much you can do about it. One option that I think a lot of foreclosure people are going through foreclosure don't really know is you don't have to fight the bank on the foreclosure, right? Like you can just deed the property back to them without having them to actually put a foreclosure on your record. It's called a deed in lieu of foreclosure. Just deed the property back to them without having them hiring an attorney and going through a lengthy foreclosure and drawing it out. Just give them the home back. Obviously,
deed it back to the bank.
Yeah, deed it back to the bank.
Yeah.
I would tell them to do that, but I'm also not sure if you could do that with every lender too. I'm not sure, but yeah, that would be probably their best bet, is just to give up and give it back to the bank. So yeah, just unfortunate there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Liz. Brandon says, I'm just getting started. I live in LA. I know Pay said to just start in your own backyard first, but some leaders have said to start in red states. Do you think it's good for me to start to work in the SoCal market? Such a good question, Brandon. Like, very good question, right? Because so many people either live in big cities, like we live in Denver, or you live in LA, and then there's people that live in podunk nowhere, right? So it's like, how do I know if I live in a good market? That being said, there's money to be made in any market. Even if your county has a population of 3,000, I guarantee you can find a deal, make money somehow. Same thing if you live in LA where the population is, I don't know, probably a few million. Obviously there's a lot more competition, but that means there's people to collaborate with and there's deals to be had. So the SoCal LA market, the reason people tell you to do red states is because as a community, PACE, creative finance, we're generally buy and hold investors, and red states have better landlord laws. But SoCal, LA are great for fix and flips. So if you can find a property that needs some work, pick it up for a discount and wholesale it to a flipper, that's obviously one way you can get into the real estate world. Same thing here in Denver. I'm sure it's very similar to LA. Our markets appreciate so quickly. So even if someone bought their home a year ago, just in appreciation alone, they've built up so much equity. So there's not a whole lot of low equity subject to deals floating around in LA and Denver and New York. Just is my guess. So creative finance might be a little bit tougher in the LA market, but again, that doesn't mean that you can't find a deal. There's people that pay $15,000 a month in rent for a 4-bedroom house, you know? So, because the homes are $1.5 million on average, but, I would say don't be afraid to venture into other markets. Maybe pick 1 or 2 other ones to learn while also marketing and trying to find deals in your own market, but don't just stick to your own is my advice. We market in 25 different states. We haven't done deals in all those states, but like for example, Illinois, I've submitted so many offers on properties in Chicago. And just by doing that, I've learned the Chicago market a ton, right? So just by venturing out, calling agents, sending offers, you'll learn that market pretty quickly. Okay, a few more questions here and then we'll wrap it up. Kevin says, do you ever look at estate sales? Is that a good lead? And if so, how would you find out how to contact about selling? We don't personally look at estate sales, right? Like I think that would kind of fall in the probate category. And for sure there's tons of probate leads you can find, but we personally don't. That's a good question. Typically, right when someone passes away, there's a probate attorney. They appoint one of the heirs as kind of like the lead person to go to that kind of has their stuff together in life and they're the most trustworthy person. So that'd be the person you want to go to. I forget what they call that, the appointed trustee, something like that. But that'd be the person you want to go to. Ideally, you find and develop relationships with probate attorneys. Kim, you have a question?
I do have a quick question. One of the things an agent asked me today, because I was calling on some subject twos here in my market, and he was like, "Well, what happens if you die? You know, or what happens if the seller dies? What happens to that loan?" I was like, "That's a good question. I don't know." I said, "Let me speak to some people that I know that are more versed in sub 2 to be able to help answer that question for me." So what happens if the seller does die that you buy the property from subject to? What happens to that loan?
Very good question. I think we've never dealt with it personally. I know Pace has. Pace has said that he has 5 loans right now from dead people. I think that it just stays in place, right? So again, these lenders, as long as their payments are being made, they're making their interest, they're fat and happy. So whether they get a death certificate and from a loan, right, they may look at it, but if it's continuing to be paid, right, they might just turn a blind eye. That's probably, again, going to depend on the type of lender. So if it's like Wells Fargo, Rocket Mortgage, a huge national lender, they're probably just going to turn the other way as long as the payments are being made. But if it is a smaller credit union, they might say, okay, well, a death happened here. We want to check in with a probate attorney and see what's going on. But my guess is if it's a large lender, nothing happens. They, as long as the payments are being made, they're happy. So
Gotcha.
that would be my answer. And I'm not positive on that, but I think that's the case.
All right, yeah, because he stumped me. I was like, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
All right, so I can call him back and give them the answer. Appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I always use Pace as a third party story, right? So we've bought a few hundred subject to deals. But I have other investors in my network that have bought thousands of them. This is like good for the due on sale. Right. Pace has only ever, out of the thousands of subject twos he's bought, has only ever had 5 due on sales called. So I use that as a third party story all the time. Same thing. You can use that exact story with the deceased loans. So same thing. Yeah.
Makes sense. Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Kim. All right. Last 2 questions and then we got to call it. I don't know who's first. I think it's Elijah came first.
You have to be an agent, because I know Chicago has those laws where you can only do like 1 or 2 wholesales a year, and you have to be an agent. Do I have to be an agent from Chicago to do a wholesale deal, or?
Not that I don't know. To be honest, I'm not too sure. There's states, and Pace talks about this often, that a lot of states are catching on to what wholesalers are doing and making it a requirement to get your license. I'm not sure if those laws have passed. I know there are a few states where they have kind of come down on wholesalers a little bit. And I'm sure some people also might know that a little bit more than me in here. But I mean, yeah, that would be an attorney question, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know, because you could also double
Illinois,
close, right?
you have to be a real estate agent to do wholesaling.
Dylan, my knowledge from being in Illinois and working with the investors here, you're allowed 1 wholesale a year, but obviously ways to get around it are to JV. You JV up with another agent, or so.
But do you have to be an agent from Illinois, or can I be like from Wisconsin and wholesale in Chicago?
You probably have to be licensed in Chicago, in Illinois is my guess, because there's different laws, right? Real estate laws. But yeah, I think you could get around it, right? Like just make a relationship with an agent friend and pay her, just a fee of like $500 just to, put it in her name. You could also double close. You could literally buy the property, close in the same exact day, and then resell it to your investor. I don't see how there would be any legalities against that. You're literally double closing. You would obviously need a lender, a bridge loan lender, a short-term sort of gator lender to fund your close. And then as soon as the next one closes, they get paid back. But there's ways around it, I'm certain. But yeah, good question. I know a lot of Pace talks about it a lot, that he thinks in like the next 5 or so years, every wholesaler will have to be a real estate agent, which I hope not. I really don't want to be a real estate agent. So, yeah, good question. Lily, you have a question?
Hey, yes, thank you. I was curious what you call the fee that you charge when you help a flipper or a wholesaler find the buyer they need, to fix and flip a property. You're kind of like the middleman. I don't know. That's usually a wholesale fee, but I'm not sure what you would call it, because they're not wholesaling it. They're fixing and flipping it.
I mean, you could literally call it anything. Like consulting fee is something in the real estate world that's sort of used often. A referral fee. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter what you call it. It could be called a JV fee, referral fee, consulting fee, whatever you want to call it. Just send them an invoice and say, hey, this is an invoice fee or whatever. And then I know obviously you're a lender, so you have to depend, like you probably have to abide by certain rules. So that would probably be a question for another lender to know what the right terminology is. if
Yeah.
you're using that, if you're being a lender in that capacity.
Oh yeah, no. I'd be wearing a different hat.
Right.
More, yeah, on the investor side than the lending side.
Right. And I would, have them pay it through an LLC, through an entity. But I would just call it, a referral fee, consulting fee, something like that.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Thank you.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks, Lily. Good to see you too. Thanks for
Same
showing up.
here.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, today was awesome. Thank you guys so much. I think we had up to like 70, 80 people or so. So, that's just awesome. I love real estate. Real estate is just so exciting to me. I don't know if it's like I love real estate, but I just love it as a vehicle to get to freedom, right? Like I love golf and snowboarding more. If I could do those all day, I'd rather be doing that. But in the meantime, right, real estate is such a fun vehicle to get me to financial freedom, to be able to do those things full time. So I'm just glad that there's this many people that share that same passion and same interest as me. So shout out to you guys. Real estate's tough. There's millions of ways you can make money, millions of ways you can lose money. So just continuing to add to your knowledge, trying to get better, be around like-minded people. Always shout out to you guys for improving yourself. Right on. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, of course, man. Yeah. So Friday, we do Zooms every Tuesday and Friday. Friday, we usually pick a topic. So it's not just a Q&A. We pick one topic and deep dive into it. So it could be underwriting. It could be calling agents live. It could be role playing. We're not too sure what we'll likely do. We usually just pick it a day before, come up with a game plan, and then let it fire. So we'll see you guys Friday. In the meantime, make sure you join our Facebook group. Make sure you subscribe to Angie's YouTube channel. And then lastly, too, the best way that you guys can help us, if you guys have time, this is one of the best ways just to give back to us for all of the time that we spend with you. If you could just come into the Creative Real Estate Facebook group with Pace Morby and just share how much the Elephant Challenge has helped you, whether this is your first time in it or you've been in it for a while. Just if you could shout out our team, shout out the Elephant Challenge in general, just try to get more people interested in the Elephant Challenge. That's really the best way you can help us. So, and then lastly too, if you guys have leads that you want to submit, I will share that link with you guys one more time before we leave it. Save this link, star it, save it as a bookmark. But that's how you guys can send us leads and we will help you get it to the finish line. So that's all I have for you guys. Have a safe week, make some phone calls, cause some safe havoc, and we will see you guys on Friday. Peace. See you guys.